Okay, folks, here we are again. Now, as I said in the last video there, I'm going to give you a run through of Shmups through the ages and illustrate it with a few of my collecting pieces that I've knocked together over the last, 30 years. Now, obviously, Shmups is such a vast genre that it would be impossible for me to cover everything. So I'm just going to run over what I can remember of the main historical aspects of Shmups, if you like, and then, as I say, show you a few things so you don't get bored with me talking all the time. If you'll excuse me, I'm just going to finish my cup of coffee there and clear my throat so you can hear me. Okay, Shmups. Now, I suppose it's a genre that wouldn't lie down. It started way back in 1978, if my memory serves me. A firm called Taito. They produced an arcade cabinet called Space Invaders. Now, I think it's such a cultural icon. I think everybody's probably, gamer or not, probably familiar with Space Invaders. It's like Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, stuff like that. It's kind of in everybody's mind. I've seen it somewhere. And that kind of kicked off the Shmups era, if you like. Now, it's curious to note that these type of games weren't called Shmups back in the day. They were just called shooting games. Obviously Space Invaders was a fixed screen. They called it a one-screen game where it just got harder as you went along. And then you had games like Galaga, which where stuff moved about more freely, and there was sort of a scrolling effect, but it wasn't a true scrolling shmup, and very, very much the same with Galaxian. So all of these cabinets were from the late 70s, early 80s, and of course, Space Invaders became such an incredible phenomenon that everybody wanted to do a shooting game. Quite simple. As I say, you had your Pac-Mans and your Donkey Kongs and stuff like that, Cubit and Asteroids, whatever. Kind of a shooting game. Well, it was a shooting game, but it was a different type of shooting game. I tend to look upon Shmups as, as your Raiden R-type of, games where you go and picking stuff up and getting power-ups and trying to get through the level. And then another game became very, very popular. I've never been able to play this because of all the buttons. It totally confuses me, this game. But this was a slightly different game in as much as it was a horizontal shooter. And there was, I can't remember how many buttons were involved, but there were a lot. But it became very, very popular. And kind of when that came out, Shmups were, shooters, I should say, were well and truly on the map. Now, just to get away from this shooting Shmups naming, I'll just explain that the term Shmups was coined when, in the early 90s, when Doom and Quake became a thing on the PC. course, they were first-person shooters, FPSs, and the name Shmup was coined to differentiate scrolling shoot-'em-ups or overhead shoot-'em-ups, sideways shoot-'em-ups from FPSs, and that's why the name Shmups was born. And of course, the arcades continued to thrive. If you walked into an arcade then, I mean, I can remember walking into my first arcade in 1984, I believe it was, just after I bought my Sinclair Spectrum, and 2/3 of the games were some sort of shooting game. And as I say, it was a very, very popular genre. Now, the Sinclair Spectrum wasn't a great console for that type of game. Just couldn't handle them power-wise. But the Commodore 64 came along, and you got games like this, Armalite. Now, this is actually PC version, but this was originally on the Commodore 64. It was a side-scrolling game, and quite a good game actually. Not an easy game to play, but it was very well regarded at the time, and it showed that the consoles of that time, could do these type of games to arcade perfection almost. There were other consoles like the ColecoVision, Intellivision that claimed that their versions were arcade perfect, but they weren't. I mean, you had obviously Space Invaders, Galaxians, Galagers, the very early sort of early 80s games, but they weren't arcade perfect. I mean, they were perfectly serviceable, but they weren't arcade perfect. And then came along the NES. Now, I've never collected from the NES, so I can't really show you anything. But there were a lot of good games for the NES, Gun Knack, stuff like that. I'm not too much of an expert on the NES shooters, shmups, I must say. But and then the Master System wasn't quite as successful. I mean, it had a couple of decent shooters on it, shmups on it, Power Strike 2, which I believe were called something else in Japan, Alest, I believe, something like that. And then came along the more powerful consoles, if you like, and you had the Commodore Amiga doing very, very good shmups, and latterly the PS1 came along, and that kind of cemented the ability to do arcade perfect shmups, if you like. That was one of the earliest on the PS1. I don't think it was a release game, but it certainly came out very shortly after the release of the PS1. That's the Japanese version. It had Raiden 1 and 2 on it. Raiden 2 is still one of my favourite shmups. And strangely enough, I mean, the PAL version of this is quite expensive. I mean, I think I got this for about 16 quid, which was dirt cheap. This is the Jap version, but certainly the PAL version of that is quite, it's like 40, 50 quid. And unfortunately, I don't have too many PS1 games to show you because way back in the day I sold most of mine. I've never really got them back. I just bought that one because it's a game I particularly like. But I'm getting ahead of myself actually, because you had the first generation of 16-bit consoles and the Mega Drive. Now, the Mega Drive was a machine for shmups. It didn't have the same graphical powers as the SNES, but it certainly had the processing power. Although I've only got two, I'm just in the process of trying to build up a Mega Drive collection of shooters, but they're quite expensive now, a lot of them. But that was one of the better ones, and it was hard as nails. I've never got anywhere near completing it. Truxton, known as Tatsujin, I believe, in Japan. And then the other one I have picked up is a very well thought of horizontal scroller called Gainoog. But until I can get out to some of these retro fairs, I don't think eBay is the best place to buy them because they tend to ramp the prices up a bit. And also the SNES had quite a lot of shooters, but it wasn't until people got to grips with the SNES that shooters like Axelay and Space Megaforce, I think it was, became very popular. And then, of course, we passed on to the machines that had more power, more grunt, if you like. Now, of course, alongside the PS1, you had the Sega Saturn. Now, that was a gaming machine for shmups, believe me. I never did sell my Saturn. That's right. I had a big purge a while back when I was in some financial deep waters, and but I never sold my Saturn, and consequently, I never sold my Saturn games. And you had some very interesting compilations like the Thunder Force compilation. There was two of them, gold pack. This one did the Mega Drive, Thunder Force 2 and Thunder Force 3, which were very, very popular on the Mega Drive. And then you had the Gradius pack, known as Nemesis over here, I believe. I tend to go by the Japanese names because I've always been used to Japanese stuff. I've always had Japanese machines. So I mean that was quite a popular game of the 80s, side scroller, and this is a PS1 Dodonpachi, another vertical scroller that was very, very popular at the time of that machine. Now, the Saturn games became. This was a Saturn game that was very, very highly thought of. I've never really got into it personally, but that was a Saturn game, Radiant Silver Gun, that was very, very popular at the time. And there are certain shooters on the Saturn now which are pricey, to say the least. Hyperduel by Technosoft, not a particularly great game in my opinion, and in the opinion of a few people that I've seen on forums and such, forums, I don't know. Excuse me. Before I choke to death, I'll just take another swig. Excuse me. Yeah, I mean that goes. It doesn't even go up. It's not even up for as an asking price of 400. That goes for 400 quid. And if you want one in sealed, just remortgage your house. Horrible prices. Similarly, Batsujin. That's another one that's certainly in the 200s. Weird one that, because it's slightly thicker than other Japanese boxes, and yet you look inside and it's just the same So yeah, I mean that's another one that goes regularly for mid 200s. So you know we're talking serious money here. Stuff like Blast Wind, another one that goes for serious money. But in amongst all of this, you had one little machine that kind of stood head and shoulders above anything that had gone before, even the Saturn, and that was the PC Engine. Now, I was obsessed with the PC Engine when it came out. I mean, I bought one and I was regularly on the phone to dealers in London, buying up the latest shoot 'em up Shmups. And I mean, you moan about the prices now, the prices then were pretty horrendous. It's something people forget, you know, when they look at prices online now for retro games, they think, well, that's expensive. Not remembering that at the time they were just as expensive. And the PC Engine could do, excuse me, while just get something to show you. The PC Engine could do arcade perfect ports. And also some original stuff. Now, I've actually seen this gunhead. I mean, that's one of the legendary PC Engine shmups. It's called Blazing Lasers in America. Now, of course, we didn't officially get a release of the core graphics as the PC Engine was known in the States. But yeah, I mean, I played this to death, and I actually walked into an arcade in Gateshead Metro Centre one day, and this was playing on in an arcade machine. So I'm thinking, well, that's a PC Engine game, you know. It's not an arcade game that I'm aware of, but that rigged it up to play in an arcade machine, and it looked brilliant. But yeah, that's one of my favourite shmups of all time. And in actual fact, they've recently released, when I say recently, you know, within the last couple of years, 2 or 3 years, they've released another version of it. Now, it's not a thing that we've ever sort of got to grips with in the West, but the Japanese love these what they call caravan shoot 'em ups, shmups. I'll get this right in a minute. Basically, it's a time attack score, if you like. So you get 3 minutes to hit a certain score, and then your game's done, or 5 minutes. You know, you can sometimes stipulate whether you want to go for a 3 or a 5. And this was another version of Gunhead like that they brought out for the CD version. Now, some bright spark decided that the engine might be better served by having a unit with a CD-ROM next door, so that the games could load in quicker and you could get better graphics, better sound, blah blah. And yeah, it worked. I mean, I've got a Turbo Duo, which is the CD and the Hue card built into one player, and it's great. You know, the music and some of the stuff on the Super CD ROMs is really, really nice, and that is one that plays off a CD rather than Hue card. But the Gunhead spawned a series of shooters. There was Soldier Blade, this one, Final Soldier. I think there might have been another one. Memory leaves me for the moment, but yeah, there was, and these were high quality shooters, seeing as though they were just on a Hue card. I mean, if you're not familiar with what a Hue card is, it's comes in a little plastic pouch, and it's simply a little card that goes in like a normal cartridge, you know. And you know, many good PC Engine games just came in that format, but many better ones came in the CD format. which spawned, the CD format spawned a lot of good shooters. There was Darius, another famous shmup, was ported over. I'll just show you these couple next because Zero Wing and Hellfire, of course, were very well regarded shmups on the Mega Drive. It's worth mentioning at this stage that I mentioned the Mega Drive. There was a CD unit came out for it, and I had a Japanese one which I don't have anymore, but I kept a few of the games. Unfortunately, due to the fact that my room where I keep all my stuff is an absolute tip, I never know where anything is. I can't find them, so we'll have to go without those. But yeah, there was a few good shmups for the Mega Drive CD unit as well. And just carrying on with the Spriggan, that's another CD game for the engine, which was very, very, very good. That's a game that was more popular in Japan. These are all CDs I'm showing you, by the way. Cotton. I don't even know if we got it officially in the arcades, but certainly a very popular game in Japan, a cutesy kind of horizontal scrolling shoot 'em up. And yeah, these are interesting. These are what they call the Summer Carnival. I've got the one for '92, which is called Alzadik for some reason, weird name, and this one is called Nexa. Yeah, these are more of these caravan types of games that I told you about, where you just go for a high score and it's timed. It's something it takes a bit of getting used to, but once you get used to it, it's quite good fun. Trying to beat your last score. And then they did a CD version of Raiden, Super Raiden they called it. And they did a very, very nice version of Gradius 2. Arcade Perfect. I mean, the effects on that are absolutely amazing. And this was for the TurboGrafx CD, the American Gate of Thunder, stunning horizontal scroller. The speed of it and the amount of stuff on screen is absolutely amazing, and that's why I show it to you. Now, although it's never been regarded as a game for shmups, the Tempest, getting ahead of myself, the Jaguar did a very nice version of Tempest. It was an updated version of Tempest by Jeff Minter, called Tempest 2000. They've recently done an updated version on PS4 and Xbox One called Tempest 4000, but it's not as good as this. And yeah, that's something you probably wouldn't expect to see on the Jaguar. And they also did another shooter which I was lucky to pick up for the price because it's quite expensive. This one is not quite as good, but I thought I'd show it to you because I think it's the only other scrolling shmup on the Jaguar. And then all of the consoles after that, got in on the act, and that was Ikaruga for the GameCube. There again, the GameCube doesn't have many scrolling shooters, shmups if you like. But yeah, that was very well thought of. It's the game where you have to shoot things of a different colour, and you can protect yourself by shooting the wrong colour to what you are. It's a game I don't care for, so that's why I'm a bit vague about it. But yeah, that was a very, very, very well thought of game. And then of course the PlayStation 2 got in the hour. You know, I only have half a dozen PS2 shmups, but that one was nice. I like that one. Of course, they're doing a R-Type Final 2. Now you can get a demo of it for Switch and PC, I believe. And then this was a great thing that happened for the Xbox 360. There was a very, very famous movement in Japan called bullet hell shooters, and the masters of that were a firm called Cave, who you might have heard of. And they did a lot of shooters in Japan, but they were region locked. But they deigned to release a couple of them in PAL. Death Smiles was one. Dodonpachi Resurrection was another. That was Death Smiles was a horizontal. This is a vertical shooter. Both very nice. I mean, I would love to get hold of some of the Japanese collector's editions that they did, but price-wise. And then they did that one, which is, I can never pronounce it, Akai Katana, which is another sideways scroll. As far as I know, that was the only three Japanese shooters that they did. Now, in amongst all this, before I move on to the current gen, there was a big movement in Japan called Doujin. And there were a lot of Doujin shmups produced in Japan during I don't know when it started, but I think it might have corresponded with when shmups became less and less popular. And that coincided with the advent of the fighting games, Street Fighter and Tekken and stuff like that, which became very, very popular in arcades, and shmups were kind of pushed to the back and then disappeared altogether. But in Japan there was a movement called Doujin which produced commercial shmups. This is one, Blood Vein, which I bought directly from Japan. Right way up. No, probably not. And this is another one which I bought directly from Japan, which you can now get on Switch on one of the compilations, Warflame. Now, Doujin shmups were basically a throwback to the Spectrum days when coders used to sit in their bedroom and make commercial games, and in some cases, there's one person there, but some cases sell hundreds of thousands of copies, as with the Jet Set Willy, stuff like that on the Spectrum. And this was a very similar movement in Japan, and even to this day, you can get lots of free Doujin shmups on the PC illegally. You don't have to go outside the law to get them. And the only thing is, you're better off with an older system. I mean, I run an XP system, apart from my Windows 10, which is more suitable to this type of stuff. And then you've got the Western. They call the Western shmups. They tend to ape the Japanese stuff, but sold direct. You can get this on PSN. That's a limited edition that I picked up cheaply down in London. And then, of course, you've got the PS4, which that's about the best of the shmups. I think Raiden 5, although the scrolling does your eyes in. And then we move finally on to the Switch, which is a very good machine for shmups at the minute. And they did a couple of Psycheo compilations, and you can get, good stuff like Gunbird, Gunbird 2 is on that one with about 4 others. And on that one you can get the Strikers, three of the Strikers editions, Dragon Blaze. Yeah, I mean, you can get these, still get these for about 50 quid each, so and when you're getting 6 or 7 games, not so bad. Which brings me to the last thing I want to mention before my time runs out here, which is Steam. I mean, Steam's got, well over I think nearly 2,000 shmups. Some of them are not, that come under the shmups category aren't, but a lot of them are. So, you know, there's between, I'd say, 1,000 and 1,200 sort of like bona fide shmups. Some of them are very good. And if you get them on a cheap week, you know, when they've got deals on, you can build up quite a nice collection like I have, without having to have shelves for the space. So there you go, folks. There's my little take on the shmups. I was a bit dubious about doing it because there's so many shmup videos out there, but I thought I might be able to bring something new to the party. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that, and I've absolutely no idea what's coming next, so just stick with it, okay? And I hope you're all well, and I'll see you all later. Bye-bye now.